And here we go. So we've got some of those sponsors on the call. There's Darren from DV Creative and Nichole from Harrington Langer. Greg Bell from the Sane Foundation's on today. Appreciate all of you who are here on the call with us. So if you'll turn on your cameras, we'll do a brief around the Zoom here and answer this question. What is the question? It is, I'm curious about this topic because, and I'll go ahead and start. And then I'll hand it off to someone, and then that person just hand it off to somebody else who's got their camera up and ready, and we'll roll. Ready? So I'm Paris Dunning. I'm the director of ESABA. I'm happy to greet you all on this beautiful spring morning. And I have a curiosity about this because I just had a conversation with Marv yesterday about unemployment taxes. Are unemployment taxes going up 4% to help cover the unemployment that was dispersed this year and is expected to be dispersed? That's a question I'm curious about. Greg Bell, Sane.
Right. Yes, my name is Greg Bell. I'm from the Sane Foundation. I'm curious about this subject just because it's the time right now. It's tax time, and you know, the more I know, the more I know. I'll send it off to, let me see. How about to Sagal?
Hi, everybody. I'm one of the crime prevention coordinators with the St. Paul Police Department. I am also just kind of curious about everything just because you're right, like Greg said, it is tax season. A lot of people have questions that come around this time. So it's good to just be educated and well-rounded on that. I will pass it to Michelle.
Good morning, I'm Major Michelle Heaver. I am with the Salvation Army as a Divisional Disaster Services Secretary. I do work with Captain Scott Spicer. I'm interested in the 1145 conversation regarding the upcoming trial, and how the Salvation Army can be of service to the community during that time. And I'll pass that on to Terry.
Okay, Terry Furlong with Premier Banks, and I'm just excited to come to these meetings just to hear Paris, all of his enthusiasm and what he does for the greater East Side. So I'll pass it over to, let's do Chris Shapira.
I was hoping to go through this, like, you know, without having to show my face. But I'm right there with Terry and with Greg. I want to understand, you know, what other people are thinking about this tax season. And yeah, I'm a fan of Paris. So I just have to get my week jump on Thursdays. I get some energy from Paris. So that's why I'm here. Oh, who did I pass it on to? Has Nichole spoken yet?
No, hi, I am Nichole Fairbanks, and I'm going to be the presenter this afternoon. I'm, of course, interested in taxes because that's my life and my profession, and there has been 3 or 4 major COVID bills in the last year, and so we're going to go over some of that. I'm also looking forward to hearing about what Kurt has to say at 1145 because I live right in between the governor's mansion and the Capitol. And so we were pretty active here with stuff going up and down the street during last year's unrest. So just want to get filled in on what's predicted for this year too. Oh, and I will pass it off to Darren.
I'm Darren Barley with DV Creative, a creative marketing communications firm over here on the east side. I personally am not interested in this topic. I hate this time of year. However, I run a small business, so I must know these things. So I'm here to listen. However, I don't enjoy the topic. So, but I do enjoy Paris like everyone else. So no offense, Nichole.
No problem.
I'll pass it off to Eric Rasmussen from KSTP.
Hi everybody, Eric here from KSTP. I'm an investigative reporter and had linked up with Paris, and he was kind enough to let me sit in on this We're working on a piece about lessons learned from the unrest a year ago and some of the changes and developments that have come along the way. And obviously, these workshops for businesses were brought up to us as one of the kind of the positive things that have come along to help prepare everybody. So interested in hearing Commander Hallstrom's chat with everybody today. Otherwise, I'll stay out of the way. Thank you. Oh, and I need to pick somebody here. Forgive my ignorance. Have we heard from Karen or Nate yet?
No, that'd be good. Go ahead, Nate.
Sorry, I was on a remote location, so I had it muted. Nathan at 11 Walls Spirits. Just checking in on the state of the taxes to make sure we're not paying any more than we absolutely have to, because the year will be tight enough as it is.
Nice, Nate. Perfect. Let's go to Karen then. I'm not sure, Nate, you can see from your phone who's on the call. So let's go to Karen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen McCabe. I'm the Outreach Director from McGough Construction. We're a commercial general contractor. We are also members of the CCC, which is the Construction Connects to Community, working with the Midway area group of businesses, and just wanted to learn a little bit more about the 1045 update and seeing how we can help. Thank you. Oh, I will pick, let's see, Kai Lawson, please.
Sure. I'm Kai, a local benefits advisor with AFLAC, and I'm also a first-time homeowner. So I'm curious, we keep getting all these county assessor's office tax assessments for the upcoming years, and I'm really curious where they're getting these numbers from, why they seem to deviate from month to month or year to year, and also learn a little bit more about some of the COVID stimulus check impacts on taxes and how that's going to shape out. Oh, let's do Payment Smith.
Okay, are you on, Tyler Tran from Payment Smith? All right, Tyler is partner with ESABA, working with Payment Smith, but I don't know if he's live today. So he may just be listening in and unable to access his audio. Have we heard from everyone? No, Elaine.
Well, as a nonprofit, I'm here to hear what I should be doing that I'm not doing, because we pay very little attention to taxes. And I'm also very interested in what Commander Hallstrom has to say at 10:45. And I am a Paris groupie, of course.
I love my groupies. All right, fantastic. Well, you're all going to be Nichole groupies by the time this is over. So here we go. I'm really pleased to introduce Nichole Fairbanks from Harrington Langer. She is ESABA's accountant, has been an active member of ESABA for many years, is a great sponsor, and is my favorite person to refer when it comes to tax stuff. For anyone who's got a question or is looking for somebody who's fun to hang out with. So Nichole, welcome to the party. I'm gonna make Nichole the host, and we'll roll right into this. Like we all know, Senior Commander Hallstrom coming on at 11:45. So we've got 30 minutes, a little more, for our tax conversation. And I hope that we can get some of your questions answered and learn a little bit more about the tax code. So here we go. I will go ahead and make you the host, Nichole, and you can get her loaded up.
All right. Well, I love all your guys' comments about how lively Paris is. And I did send him an email this morning and said, I'll try to be as lively as I can when I'm talking about this subject, because I know it can be kind of daunting and not everybody likes it. And I also had my second COVID shot yesterday, so I'm feeling a little bit achy, but otherwise I'm pretty good. So I hope that that's how it's going to remain here for the next day or two. So I'm going to get my screen up here. All right, so like we said, Nichole Fairbanks from Harrington Langer and Associates. We are on Phelan Boulevard, just right after Payne there. So That is where we're located on the east side. Today, we're going to talk about the Consolidated Appropriations Act and then the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And there's some business provisions and also some individual provisions. We had done this presentation just under the Consolidated Appropriations Act. I did update it for some stuff that was in the new Rescue Plan Act that just passed, but I don't think anyone cares if I differentiate between the two acts, because I don't. A lot of it was just an extension of stuff that was already in the first or second act. I'm also going to skip over the PPP. I know that ESABA has covered this several times, but if there are questions when we get over, please feel free to ask me. Sorry, I should have taken these slides out of here. Okay, so we are going to start with the employee retention credit. So the employee retention credit is a credit that you get on your 941 taxes if you're paying quarterly payroll taxes. And when the CARES Act came out, you were not allowed to do the PPP and the employee retention credit. But since the Consolidated Appropriations Act, that has been repealed. So now if you got PPP 1 or PPP 2, you also can qualify for the employee retention credit. So for 2020, and you'd go back and you would amend your payroll taxes for 2020 if you were going to get the employee retention credit. So for 2020, you had to have a 50% reduction in your gross receipts in any quarter compared with the same quarter in 2019. If you didn't have that 50% reduction, but you were fully or partially shut down due to COVID, you would automatically qualify. So all of your, restaurants, bars, gyms, entertainment venues, stuff like that would qualify. And then for 2021, you only had to have a 20% reduction in your gross receipts for the same quarter in 2019, and as well also be partially shut down for the year. So that's what the qualifications are. And then we have the calculation. So for 2020, the calculation is total payroll costs for this period, March 13th through through December 31st. And so it's max compensation of $10,000 per employee up to $5,000 per employee. So assuming all of your employees made $10,000 within this period, you would get a $5,000 credit for each of those employees. For 2020 or 2021, the credit got a little bit better, and it's 75% of qualified wages up to $10,000 per employee, but that $10,000 is per quarter. So you can get a max credit of $14,000 per employee for the credit. And then we have what qualifies as a payroll cost. So it's the same cost for each year. It's just the thing that changed was the number of employees. If you had 500 or less employees or 100 employees or less. So that would be your wages paid to the employee and their health insurance. Oop, skipped a slide. You cannot use the same payroll costs that you use for PPP. So the next slide that I just previewed there does have an example of how that would work if you got PPP as well. And in this credit, your business owners and family members do not qualify for this credit. Employees that had more than the required number to qualify for the credit of employers, you basically had to pay your employees to not work to get this credit. So I don't think that there's anybody possibly that qualifies for that here, but that's how that would work. So this is an example of a business that also got the PPP loan. So they were funded for their PPP loan on April 23rd. They got a total of $67,000, $67,700. So the 2020 date again started on 3/13. So from 3/13 to 4/23, this is how much their employees were paid. Then this was their PPP loan forgiveness period. Oh, I keep clicking on the screen, sorry about that. So this was their PPP loan forgiveness. So this calculation does not qualify. So they had qualified wages, they had to subtract some wages here from the owner, and then also on PPP, rent, mortgage, interest, utility, retirement costs, and state unemployment qualified. So here's where they got their PPP forgiveness. So that is not included in the calculation. And then from 7/31 to 12/31, this is the amount paid to the employees for that period. So then we have the total cost of $236,000. And then we subtracted off the ineligible costs. So like we said, business owners are not eligible and everybody else is capped at $100,000 or $10,000 maximum amount here. So that amount came to $60,350, and we do the 50% credit. That's what the credit was available for 2020, and they're going to get a $30,175 credit for the employee retention. So this is a really valuable credit and something that I hope more and more people are becoming familiar with it, because it really kind of, with the first round of PPP, got pushed to the back because people weren't eligible to do both. Then we have the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and this is also a credit on your taxes. And this is, you can use this to pay employees for up to 80 hours for 2 weeks for full-time employees. And this is also refunded on your quarterly payroll tax returns. And this is for employees that are taking sick time due to COVID, waiting for a test, quarantining, or taking care of a family member. There are some different rates at which this gets paid. It's only 2/3 pay for if you're taking care of somebody or taking care of a child because of school closure or something like that. So if you want more information on who qualifies for this credit, I don't have a slide in here on that, but I can definitely let you know. This was in like the very first act that was passed right away. And this has now been extended through September 30th of 2021. And then it's also no longer mandatory to give employees the paid sick time through December 31st. You were required to give the sick time, and now you're not required to. I mean, I don't think anyone wants their employees coming to work sick if they have the coronavirus, but I think it's more of those, staying home and taking, if you need people to come to work that aren't sick, maybe taking care of other family members or something, you can, you no longer have to give them that sick leave. And then there is some assistance that employers can offer to people with student loans. So now employers can pay up to $2,000 or $5,250 per year in educational assistance to employees, and it is not taxable. It's not subject to Social Security, federal income tax, or any of those things for the employees. So this is a really cool deal, and this has been extended through January 1st of 2026. There was some changes in the FSA and dependent care. So if you have a flex spending account, you can now, those amounts usually needed to be spent by the end of the year. You can carry over your amounts from 2020 to 2021, and then from 2021 also to 2022, and spend those amounts. And then they've raised the contribution limits on the dependent care flex spending. So that is up to $10,500 for married couples and $5,250 for single filers. So that increased quite a bit. I want to say that was a max of $5,000 prior to married couples. So that's gone up more than double. So that's quite a good benefit to help pay for daycare, because that also is then not subject to income tax or Social Security, Medicare, all of those taxes. They expanded some deductible business expenses. So this is to help the restaurant business. They're now 100% of business meals may be written off for 2021 and 2022. So that's a pretty big deal. Meals have always been only deductible at 50%. And then in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, They made entertainment not deductible, and that still is not deductible, but 100% of business meals, that's pretty good benefit. Then we have some individual provisions. So one of my partners that helped me do this slide, he said this is what we think our employees were doing all summer: fishing, gardening, and golfing. We don't, once we were done with tax season, which of course didn't end until July 15th this year, or last year, this is what people were doing once we got out of that. So some individual provisions. The third round of economic impact payments. So there is a stimulus check coming if you haven't got yours already. There's a $1,400 per taxpayer, $2,800 for married couples, and that also is $1,400 per qualifying child. And these are the income brackets at which you'll get your income or your impact payment. An expansion of the child tax credit. This is just for 1 year. This is just for 2020. So that credit increased to $3,000 per child and $3,600 for children under the age of 6. And this does also now include dependents age 17 and younger. The previous child tax credit did not include 17-year-olds, so it's 16 and younger. This credit is also now refundable. So if you don't have taxes to offset it, it will be a refundable credit. And then I have this credit can be received in advance. I put question marks there because I do believe that that's what the bill says, but I've heard some talk just on some different articles and stuff I've read that they don't know that the government is going to actually be able to roll this out and pay the credit in advance. So it's still more to come on that. And I'm sure they're still working on figuring out how they're going to get those payments to people in advance. And then what happens if at the end of the year or something you didn't qualify for the credit, how are you going to pay it back? So still to come more on that, like a lot of this, but that credit may possibly be able to be received in advance. And then there is another extension of the unemployment assistance. So they renewed the $300 per week payments in addition to the state unemployment. And that's been extended through September. There's an additional $100 per week for freelancers and independent contractors. And then in the American Rescue Plan, there is the first $10,200 of unemployment benefits that you received are not taxable. And this has been made retroactive back to 2020, which this is one of the things that's causing quite a headache in our world right now because as you know, the 2020 tax season has already started. So we are underway and have filed a lot of those taxes. And now they're making this retroactive back to 2020 that those are not going to be taxable. Right now, the federal government is saying do not amend those taxes. They think they're going to take care of it on their own and be able to get you those refunds if you've already filed the taxes for that. I know that our tax software has not been updated for us to calculate that non-taxable portion. And then I do know that there is a plan working its way or a bill working its way through the Minnesota legislature that will also make some unemployment non-taxable for state, but I'm not sure where that's at right now. I've been trying to follow it, but it seems it's going up and down and around, and I'm not sure where we're at right now with that. So hopefully there'll be some relief there from the state as well. And then there's also some expanded deductible expenses for individuals. So medical expense as an itemized deduction the floor has been reduced and is now permanently set at 7.5%. That was previously at 10.5%. So you would have to figure out your adjusted gross income, take 10.5% of that, and then you wouldn't be able to deduct medical expenses until you got over that 10.5%, and that has now been brought down to 7.5%. And oh yes, the last one here is the CARES Act put in a $300 above the line charitable deduction for people who don't itemize their taxes. And this is now going to be $600 for 2021 for people who don't itemize. They changed the standard deduction a couple years ago. It's quite high now, 25,000 for married filing joint. And so some people, you know, weren't itemizing and weren't able to deduct those charitable expenses. So now those are an above the line deduction and everybody will get to deduct those. Let's see. All right. Well, I'm done with what I have here on my slides, but I'm ready to open it up to questions and see what you guys have to ask.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nichole. If you want to drop a question in the chat, go ahead and do that, or you can, you know, gesticulate wildly if you've got a question. I've been watching the chat. Also, so Nichole, Karen asked, your slides disappeared at some point for her in the presentation.
Yeah.
And if you will
have these, I can have them available to email out if you, yeah.
Yeah. Sure. If you want to send them to me, I can help make sure folks have access to this slide deck. Yeah. Make sure that you put your email in the chat so that I've got your email if I don't have your email. Otherwise, everyone. So that'd be perfect. Okay, questions about this. So I have a question to start us off. Nichole, I'm curious for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act where employees may have taken some time off. So if you want to stop sharing your screen, you can. Yeah. No sweat. Okay, that's good. We can see. Oh, hey, we've got Jorge too with a new haircut. Hey, Jorge, how are you, man? Look at that. He lost some hair. Okay. Glad to have you. We did introductions before. So let's process some questions here. Like I said, I'll be watching the chat. Thanks for getting us rolling, Nichole. And here's my question. The Family First Coronavirus Response Act that you mentioned allowed folks to say, hey, I'm going to be out for 2 weeks, you know, and then it allows the employer to go ahead and file that in some way, right? And receive some sort of either compensation or credit. So if ESABA did that and I was out for 2 weeks, how do we then file? What's the employer's responsibility to figure that out and file? What do they need to do?
Yes, so you file. They would pay you normally, right? They would write you your regular paycheck, and on your quarterly federal payroll tax return 941, there's a new section where you calculate the credit, and then you get that credit against your payroll taxes paid.
Got it. And then, so does that credit get filed then at tax time right now?
No, quarterly.
Oh, you have to do it quarterly. Okay. Okay, so that's good. I wanted to just kind of sort out like, what do we need? You know, what are we doing now? What have we already done? Maybe. And then I wanted to ask about that unemployment tax 4%. You know, Marv from Party Time is going to be wanting to know. He said he asked his accountant, and there was like, hello. You know, it was like that, like they didn't know or something, or whatever. So he was like, I want to ask Nichole that question, but I can't come to the meeting. Yeah.
So the way I understand it is that 4% is going to be, it's not 4% on the wages you pay. So, you know, you pay unemployment on the first $35,000 worth of wages. I think that of employees' wages. And it's going to be 4% on whatever that tax is. So let's say your unemployment rate is 1%, you know, so 35,000 is the max, and you're going to pay 1%. So that's 350. And then on that 350, you're going to pay another 4%. Okay. And it's going to be $14.
Okay.
So, and that'll be just until the unemployment fund is, you know, so. Yep. The Minnesota borrowed money from the federal unemployment fund, And now this is paying back with the interest.
Okay, I think that answers this question. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in an email to him and CC you, or maybe I'll blind copy you. So if he has follow-up questions, he can ask them. I want to also just harken back, and this is an interesting one to unravel, because Kai's question about property tax assessment, you know, here we are at tax time and we think about tax time as tax time, but property taxes are an entirely different bailiwick, are they not?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know much on that. I know one time ESABA did have somebody come in and did a lunch and learn or something on that, and they went through all of the times, the dates of when you can challenge that, because you can challenge that. You have the opportunity to do that. So maybe you want to look at getting where that was back. I don't remember, but
yeah.
The thing that came in the mail has a bunch of like appeal options and dates and times and stuff like that. We've just gotten a couple interesting things, and like our homesteading wasn't counted for a while, and there were some conditions when we first bought the house for the original tenant and stuff. So our property values have just gone from, like, you know, what we would expect to really high, then back down, then just kind of up and fluctuating. So that's totally okay. I just didn't know if you'd have like a good contact for that.
Yeah, so Kai, let's follow up. As Nichole mentioned, this is something that's on the mind of every business owner too. Hey, Robin, that's my son. He's doing a little special guest appearance. We want to wave to the team. Okay, that's another person who needs a haircut right there. Okay, I didn't say that live. That wasn't me. Anyway, that haircut is this afternoon at 1 o'clock. I want to go where Jorge went. Anyway, okay, we're back. So Kai, yeah, so we had this because business owners are often really interested and concerned about this. It's one of the top things that they want to talk about. They're not so concerned about some of these other issues that Nichole brought up, because they see those as a federal related issue, but they don't know who to talk to about their property taxes. And they're watching wild fluctuation, exactly like you mentioned. And many of them are business owners who are now owning their building more recently. You know, like they've been renting for a while, now they bought their building, and now they've got this wild new world of property. So let's bring that back as an ESABA topic, and Kai, maybe you and I can help. We can help kind of look into curating that conversation. That'd be kind of fun for you and I to work on, Kai. See, I just volunteered you. How was that? Fun. Okay, other questions about taxes? Oh, he responded in the chat, said sounds good. Perfect. All right. We will get the slide deck, and if folks will leave me there, that's great. I see some email addresses. I'll make sure that you get the slide deck and a connection to this recording too, if you want to follow up on the recorded conversation as well. Other questions that are floating around out there that folks want to ask about this? Nichole, so while we're waiting for any other additional questions, it sounds like a lot of what's happened in tax reform in the last year at the federal level, in your opinion, like these things have been good for the consumer end of this. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of amazing how much money is floating around out there, isn't it? I mean, between the PPP and the employee retention credit, I mean, you saw that example where that business was getting, you know, $110,000 on, you know, not a lot of payroll. So it's, yeah, it's all good. And hopefully, you know, we're coming out of this, and we don't have to, the economy is going to do so well that we don't end up with a big tax bill down the road as individuals. That's kind of what all of our customers keep saying is, well, I want to get this money now because I know I'm going to have to pay it back at some point, right? It's going to be in the form of higher taxes. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah.
Okay, thanks, Nichole, for sure. The other question I just wanted to follow up on, you mentioned for just the consistency from last and continuity from our last week's meeting, you mentioned the Minnesota state legislature is also figuring out how to do tax conformity around this. The federal government has said, hey, we're not going to tax the PPP as revenue that we sent out. The state is still undecided about that, but hey, tax day is coming up. I mean, I know you count down to it every year, Nichole, so, you know, we all do too. Not that your work stops at tax day. You're often pointing that out to me. I understand. But is it likely that we're going to have some decision? I'm going to go ahead and put my money on no from Minnesota. And should folks go ahead and file as if? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, that's such a tough question. I wish they could get it together and get it passed, because it's really putting, you know, a pin in some of this planning and wrapping things up for the year end. You know, they did extend the federal deadline to May 17th now. And I don't know, when's the state budgets due? Kind of right around that time. I mean, that's kind of what some people are saying, is that they don't expect the state to have a final determination on this until the end of the budget session. So I'm not sure. I was really hopeful that they would get this together sooner. I think from, if I have heard this right, it's us and California are the only two states that haven't made the PPP non-taxable. I know for sure.
Really?
Yeah. I know for sure Wisconsin, Iowa, you know, all the states around us have made it non-taxable. So I hope we can come together and make that happen. And same with the unemployment, you know, that's a big deal too for a lot of people. So.
Yes, for sure. So you'll see right on ESABA's website, it's right up on the banner right now, contact and opportunity to take action on that, who to connect with at the legislature, and what's been breezing around there so far. There's a Senate bill, there's a House bill that's going nowhere at the moment, and then there's a governor's proposal that just came out last week, so kind of on Monday, actually, this week. So lots of good things to dig into there. And, you know, part of our role as a group here is to build some of those relationships with some of the decision makers. So opportunity to even just make that call, like, hey, I'm curious about this, and I'm hoping the state does, you know, whatever you want to say to our state representatives. Good opportunity to connect with Jay Xiong, Representative Jay Xiong, Representative John Thompson, our Senator Feng He, and our governor. What's his name? Tim Walz. Yes, our governor. So yeah, we're good. Nichole, this was fantastic. Are there any final questions about where we're headed? Oh, we have someone from Human Resources that's connecting. That may be for our 1145 component. But any final taxes that folks want to pay? Just rush to the front and pay them. No? All right. Seeing none. Nichole, thank you so much. I always love peeling back and learning more about the tax code with you. It's just a great opportunity to kind of dig in on something that everybody thinks about once a year. And I'm telling you, business owners, especially around that property tax question, there's not a single issue that is hotter besides safety, you know, than like we pay a bunch of taxes. What do we get for it? I mean, it's kind of the human prerogative to come forward with that kind of feeling, I think. And we clearly need to keep digging in and keep coming back to talk about it. So thank you, Nichole. You were very lively.
Oh, thank you, Paris.
And I hope you do feel good and better and are now, you know, kind of Corona protected. So that's great. Really great. Okay, let's shift gears and we'll talk a little bit about safety and civil unrest preparedness. So I'll invite our, oh, Nichole, did you make me the host again? Or are you still the host? Oh, you're still the host. Would you make Senior Commander Kurt Hallstrom the host? Please, Nichole. Senior Commander, great to have you on the show. We've got some folks that are chiming in for your part of the presentation here. I'll invite ESABA regulars to stick around. Senior Commander, there were some particular questions that came up earlier in the introductions for your presentation. So just to review, Nichole lives right over there between the governor's mansion and the Capitol. So she has some curiosity about kind of some citywide civil unrest preparedness. We've got some folks on from Roseville and some people that are new to our show too that have just chimed in. So there may be some questions coming up as well. I'll just let you know in terms of format, everyone. Senior Commander's got about a 15, 20-minute presentation. It'll take us close to 12 o'clock. He has been very generous, and I'll invite any of you who want to stay on and ask him questions afterward. We'll leave the meeting open for those questions, so recording will continue until He shuts it down here. And we'll have that recording then made available on our YouTube channel later. So if anyone's interested in the presentation, or you missed a couple slides, or you want to go back and hear that again, we make all of that available. It'll be available later today. You can also find it on ESABA's website. So just want to welcome Senior Commander Kurt Hallstrom. And in final word, before I hand it over, we've worked with the police department. ESABA has to develop a flyer to pass out to all of our businesses. So we've been working on distributing that with his team, as well as with folks from the Sane Foundation. Thank you, Greg, for helping with that. Jorge and I did 2 hours worth of distribution, that almost killed me, but it was great out in District 1, and we're working on getting things distributed on White Bear Avenue, Arcade, Payne, 7th Street, and Phelan. So we're getting the news out about things people can do. And the website we've developed to help with that is stpaulprepared.com. stpaulprepared.com will take you to a group of resources that'll help you implement what we think of as business owners and other property owners' responsibilities in this civil unrest preparedness. So this isn't something that just the police department and just our city and county are doing. This is a topic where we have potential actions to review and consider. And so we invite you to listen along here and then go and find some of those resources that help you kind of peel it back and go like, well, what should I be doing? We're at the front of our seat right now. What can we do to help make our community safer, both in this run up to considerations around civil unrest, but also every day on the east side? As I mentioned, taxes and safety are two things that business owners across the east side are always interested to discuss. So I want to hand things off to our Senior Commander Kurt Hallstrom, and welcome again from the Eastern District offices there. Take it away.
All right, thanks, Paris. Thanks everybody for taking the time. That was a riveting conversation about taxes. I know I what somebody said. I don't like this time of year, and again this year I didn't care for it. It hurt pretty good. But anyway, so preparations for trial. This is our final scheduled presentation of this little slideshow. This was a slideshow that was presented by Deputy Chief Murphy to the City Council a month ago, just in what the police department is doing and preparing for the trial. Everybody's got the slideshow? Yes? Somebody give me a thumbs up or something on the screen. There we go. All right, very good. We'll move on. So through the slideshow, we got some topics on timelines and upcoming events, planning and preparations, protecting your business, partnering with the St. Paul Police Department, and then, like Paris said at the end, I'll stick around as long as I need. So this is a very important topic, especially with what we're going to be experiencing here over the next month to 6 weeks. But I see Jorge is on. This is also an opportunity for you to get a direct line to me. Last week, Jorge brought up an issue that he was having at his service station over at 94 and Ruth. I think that, through that relationship, we've put resources into that, and we have a roadmap forward there that I hope will work out and make the situation better over there. But, beyond this 6 weeks or whatever is in this presentation, I welcome you to, if you can't get a hold of me, reach out to Paris and he can get a hold of me. But we're here for you, and we want to make sure that you're getting the services that you need in your community, wherever that may be. So everybody, unless you are really, potential jury members, have known and have information that the trial started Monday, March 8th. Jury selection took just over 2 full weeks. The jury is completely seated as of yesterday, I think it was, or Monday. I can't remember exactly the day. They all melded together for me. But the trial will actually begin on Monday, the 29th of March, anticipating anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, I think, for the trial process deliberations to go on there with the presentation of cases at the defense and prosecution. Jury deliberations is really anyone's guess. I would guess a week to, probably not much more than a week, but a week for sure, probably. And the verdict. And these are all just, expectations based upon my experience with 26 years on the job here, 22 in St. Paul, but just my experience with the courts and watching high-profile trials and how they progress. The eyes of the world are definitely upon the city of St. Paul, especially Minneapolis, but the region as a whole. We anticipate that there's going to be protests, marches, and demonstrations, and they've actually already begun. But on that note, we have, being the capital city of the state of Minnesota, we have demonstrations, protests, and marches on a regular basis, almost every weekend. And we had those occurring in our city since, for sure, 2016. But if we go back to 2008, we even have, the RNC. So it's something that we're not afraid of. We're very comfortable with protest marches and demonstrations. It's the other activities that can occur, as we experienced last May and June, that cause us concern. And we have spent a lot of time preparing since last May and June, almost a full year, in fact. The trial for the other officers from Minneapolis is slated to start in August 2021. Obviously, that is dictated based on what the outcome of this trial is and how it proceeds through. There are still many, many things that, as Judge Kay points out, could potentially be delays and or difficulties in getting the trial concluded. So, protest marches and demonstrations in 2016 at the Falcon Heights incident. We had a lot of demonstrations and a lot of protests and things that occurred that year. Chief Axtell created a special operations unit to address those, ensure that everybody had the opportunity to express their constitutional rights, to get their message across, and to peacefully demonstrate and protest and march. And our goal has always been, since even before that, but since the beginning of that unit, is to make sure that the people that are demonstrating, protesting, do so safely and do so, to the where they go home at night and everybody else goes at night in the same condition or better than they were before they started. So that's always our goal, is the safety of people, whether protesting or just trying to get from point A to point B. We want to make sure that everybody does that in a safe and effective manner. So the primary focus of the St. Paul Police Department and the Special Operations Unit is to protect people. When protests and marches occur and demonstrations, you look at the media, it would look as if police department is leading, the demonstration. Our goal is not to, give that impression that we are part of the protest or the march. Our goal is to prevent vehicular intrusion into that group from vehicles that are potentially just confused or trying to get from point A to point B, but we don't want vehicles getting into that group. So protecting people is our number one priority. Protecting property is our number two priority. We're not gonna allow, or we're gonna try to mitigate and quickly intervene when there's threats to property. The property destruction we experienced back in May and June last year was unprecedented in my career and many officers that have been on the job longer than me. Well, we've seen that type of activity in other parts of the country, the 92 LA riots and things like that, but we hadn't experienced that here. But so we've done a lot of training and a lot of retrospect to look at what we do better, and hopefully our tactics and stance will mitigate that damage to property should that arise. And then finally, protect free speech. We are committed to the Constitution and giving the people an opportunity to protect free speech. But like it says on the slide, not at the expense of people or property. Violent behavior that is dangerous, destructive is not going to be tolerated. We're going to quickly attempt to make arrests when needed, and discourage that type of activity through presence of our law enforcement partners in the National Guard at strategically placed locations throughout the city. But again, we want everybody to go home and have opportunity to speak their platform. So we looked at what happened in May and June And last year, and we quickly realized that, you know, we need more resources than what St. Paul alone has available, Minneapolis as well. Our resources were quickly, you know, not exhausted, but they were stretched beyond our capabilities to safely address the damage and still respond to the needs of the rest of the city. We looked at that model and what we had going on there, and the good part is we've had almost a full year to respond, and then we also have a timeline as to what we can expect. We're planning accordingly to what, you know, that estimation is. The difference is last year it kind of spun really quick, and we had to push that button and get a response in a real quick manner. So we have a better staffing model, we believe, in mind here this time. So we hopefully are going to have enough resources in the districts. There's 3 east, central, and west to respond to the everyday calls for service, the 911 calls, the report calls, and things like that, while still responding to protests and unrest in the community. We've had a standing mobile force in the city of St. Paul pretty much since 2008 during the RNC. In 2016, we quickly realized again and made a staffing model policy or procedure type change, where we realized that having, you know, a dedicated mobile field force even then isn't enough, and every officer at the St. Paul Police Department is trained in mobile field force tactics and procedures. And we've also trained a number of surrounding partner agencies in those tactics as well. We also learned last year that, you know, structural fires and things like that presented a unique challenge for us. We need to provide security for the fire department. And on the face, that seems like a pretty easy task, but we figured out that the fire department, you know, needs to know what our capabilities are. The fire department needs to know they have their back, which we did, but now we've trained together. And when you train together, when you spend time with people, you understand what it is they're going to be doing, and they also understand what the services are we are going to be providing for them. And they also, you know, had an opportunity to see last year that sometimes they just have to be able to disconnect with what they're doing and move quickly. So that's not something, you know, that the fire department was used to. They're used to having time on their side, and once they get a situation dealt with, they have, you know, no sense of urgency to quickly leave. They have a lot of equipment, and they want to make sure that they account for all of it. So we've had that opportunity to train, and we're very comfortable, and as I think that the fire department is too. Communication, we continue after, you know, 2016, Shaxdale created special ops. I came from special operations when I was the senior commander there for 2 years. And my goal was to always try to reach out to the protest groups that we know of in the protest events and talk to them and let them know that, you know, our role is not to interfere with their ability to get their message across. Our role is to make sure that it's safely coordinated, safely done. If we get a route, we can facilitate their move along that route. I actually got to be a pretty good march planner. So, you know, we had that relationship, and they trust us, a lot of the group. So we're going to continue that and efforts every day to reach out to these groups and communicate that we want them, and we encourage them to continue to get their messages out there. So that's a critical part of our plan. Protecting critical infrastructure, you know, hospitals. We have many hospitals in the downtown area. We're going to rely on our National Guard and some of our other law enforcement agencies that will come up in another slide to help us with that. We also have government buildings, being the capital city. We have the state capitol complex, you know, downtown. Then we also have the governor's mansion. So we have a unique situation in the city of St. Paul where the Capitol grounds are technically under the jurisdiction of the Minnesota State Patrol, as well as the governor's mansion. Streets that run in front of the governor's mansion and run through the state capitol grounds are the jurisdiction of the St. Paul Police Department. So through the years, we've developed a really good working relationship with the State Patrol, and we have their back, and they assist us with things in and around the capitol. Very routine. We communicate and work very well with them. As I sit and speak today, there's fencing going up around the concrete barriers that have been in place here at the Eastern District for a couple of weeks now. But if you've been down to the main law enforcement camp with Ramsey County and the St. Paul Police Department, you'll see fences and barriers that are put up. Trust nobody really wants those barriers there, but we learn very quickly that we can't put those up overnight, and it takes some time, and especially in a moment of crisis, everybody else is trying to get the barriers and the fencing at the same time. So we would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So hopefully we can get through the trial and get through the time afterwards and never have needed that, and we can take it down and welcome people again back into our buildings after COVID too. So planning and preparations. St. Paul Police Department is part of the East Metro Response Group, which includes Ramsey County, Washington County, Dakota County, State Patrol, Fire Department, Emergency Management. There are National Guard already here in the city of St. Paul. They're primarily, at the Capitol and maybe over at the governor's mansion a little bit, but we haven't really seen the build of the approximate 1,000 National Guard officers or National Guard soldiers we will have in St. Paul yet. They will be coming. That's already been arranged. We've had many meetings with the Guard leadership, and they are going to assist us with, presence. They're going to assist us with security here at each district office, so east, west, and downtown, working gates, things like that. They'd also be, assisting us with the physical presence in some of our business districts. So on the east side, Payne Avenue, Arcade Avenue, maybe over at Sunray, just as a visible deterrent to potential looting or damaged property. So we're very grateful that we'll have that in place when we need it, instead of waiting and trying to figure out how we can get them here overnight, which doesn't work very well. That's quite a machine that takes time to build up. Operation Safety Net is the West Metro side, so the Minneapolis, Hennepin County side. So that includes Minneapolis, Hennepin County, State Patrol, Met Transit, National Guard, and a number of others. The two groups will work together, and communicate with each other to assure a region-wide metro response. We need to, but for the most part, the East Metro is independent of the Operation Safety Net from Hennepin County. What we are asking you, so Harris was very gracious in allowing me to steal some time for the last 4 or 5 weeks of his weekly meeting, which I'm very appreciative of. We had the same meeting at our community meeting, and then we also had one specifically with Sunray, who experienced some damage and unrest last year as well. So, what can you do as a business owner or a community member? Some of these tips are specifically toward businesses, but they could easily be applied to a home as well. Create and update your emergency or your security plans. What is your plan? Have a plan in place. If you have one, revisited it. Are the phone numbers accurate? Is the information in your plan still valid and accurate? And when we say a plan, this could be a plan for a weather disaster, a natural disaster. This could be planned for civil unrest. This could be a fire. This could be a plan for just about anything where you need to communicate with your staff, your employees, your family. Make sure that everything is okay, or they're doing something, whether that be locking down, shelter in place, or shutting down for the day, or sending people home. Whatever that plan may be, how are you going to communicate it? How are you going to assure that everybody's received it? Evaluate security measures, your interior, exterior lighting, security systems, potentially cameras, doors and windows. Consider boarding. We're not recommending boarding. We're not discouraging boarding. That's an individual business model or plan that you need as a business owner or homeowner to decide if you want to do or not. If you're going to pre-board in anticipation, I would consult with your insurance company before you take that step. Then as the snow has melted, I don't think I've seen a pile now in a couple of days, which is really nice. Check around your property to see if there's any bricks or rocks and things that have been pushed up your property by the snowplow. Check your back alleys and make sure that people aren't dumping items in there. If you have things in the back alley, 266-8989 is the city's DSI complaint line, and they'll have somebody come pick it up, couches and other things as well. And then, you know, we're asking people to stay vigilant. We saw last year that a lot of people that were participating in the criminal behavior were transporting around in vehicles that didn't have license plates on them. So if you see vehicles that appear to be staged or you don't recognize neighborhoods parked that don't have license plates on them, please call 291-1111 and or 911 and report those vehicles. We will come and investigate. And sometimes, you know, I'm sure everybody has, you know, been watching the news and the carjacking, the auto thefts and things like that. We're finding that a lot of times the plates are being removed and then the cars are being dumped in neighborhoods, and it takes, you know, weeks for us to finally, you know, drive by with a license plate reader or get a complaint to go check it out. So, we don't want those vehicles parked in the neighborhoods, so let us know. And then share evidence of crimes. If you have video and your neighbor was a victim of a crime, you know, let the officers know when they're out there, or look out for each other. Watch out for your neighboring businesses. That's just, you know, good everyday reminder, not only in times of civil unrest, but just every day. If we can get, you know, people to pay attention to what's going on in our neighborhoods, we'll be much better off. We have Segal on. I think she introduced herself, but she's a member of our crime prevention unit. You know, you can reach out to her. She provided her information in the chat. They also, the crime prevention, her and Patty offer site visits and a property assessment, so to speak. It's called crime prevention through environmental design, but they will come out and they will assess your lighting, assess your security, assess your door locks, assess, you know, vegetation, if you have, you know, overgrown brush or bushes, you know, and they'll just give you an assessment of your overall layout of your business or home. It's free of charge. It's all suggestions. There's nothing there that you have to do, but it's a free service. And if you want more information on that, you can email Call or email me, or let Paris know. He'll get your information to me as well. One of the biggest things that I've learned from having these meetings and these feedback sessions is, you know, what are we going to do to communicate what's going on with everybody. So there's a Twitter account. If you're a tweeter, I think that's the proper phrase, at SPPDMN. I don't have a Twitter account, so I don't know anything about that, but the PIOs and others will be updating and sending information about, you know, it won't be all the time, but if there's a active demonstration or something occurring, that will be an active platform that we will share information on. The Facebook page at St. Paul Police Department, that's the general Facebook page. They'll be, you know, posting information on there. Potentially, if we have front end knowledge of a planned demonstration or protest, we will try to get that on that platform as well. The Eastern District has its own Facebook page, St. Paul Police Department Eastern District. We post our monthly community meetings and other crime prevention tips on there as well. And then there'll be multiple other platforms from the Operation Safety Net in Minneapolis. Plus, there's there'll be a 24/7 news cycle. So if you're looking for information there, it'll turn on the news. I'm sure it'll be on there too. We have also reached out to our faith-based organizations in the community, and we're going to try to partner up with them, share information to their followers that they can get reliable information other than what's on social media platforms and other things, to try to, you know, just be a good communicator. The Eastern District has community meetings the third Tuesday of every month at 9:30 and again at 16:30. So you're more than welcome to attend those, and I will continue to partner with Paris and ESABA as we progress through things. And if anybody has a group that they would like this presentation given to on an individual basis, just let me know and I'll be happy to do it. Just let me know when and where. Now we're to questions. I'm going to unshare my screen so I can see everybody in the chat. And
thank you, Senior Commander. Questions. So just to follow up a little bit, one of the things that businesses have asked for is timely alerts about credible threats. I think that's kind of the key thing that we've heard from businesses, like where do we find out what's going on if it's coming my way, especially as they decide about boarding up if they haven't decided to pre-board. And so right now, what we're telling folks, right, Senior Commander, still consistent, is that Twitter feed, SPPDMN, is the best place to look for timely alerts, credible threats. Is that correct?
Yeah, you know, that and the regular news media. We don't have any, we have a platform right now that we can tailor it to a specific neighborhood or anything individually. So that Twitter account would be a good place to go. Facebook, but we realize that this is a blind spot for us, or a gap in our planning, and we're working on and getting access to the technology that will allow us to communicate better in the future. But yes, Twitter and Facebook and television media would probably be the best sources of information.
Okay, thank you. So last year, one of the things that helped a lot, and this is partly what ESABA is trying to figure out how to respond to, is that B. Kyle from the St. Paul Area Chamber sent timely updates, I mean, to the minute updates from her meetings at the control center, where she was learning things about where, you know, which neighborhoods were kind of under siege at the time. And businesses really made some key decisions based on her communication. So we're trying to figure out how ESABA models some of that. And I think we very much want to figure out how to be, you know, not necessarily in those meetings, but a conduit between our people and that information. So let's keep circulating some, and I'll also just ask B if she's going to do that kind of thing again. And if and when she does, I can also just pump those out. We can create an ESABA email group. We already have one, and we can make sure people are getting timely alerts. Not that they should base their decisions, you know, off of an email that I'm sending. Yep. I hear you. You know, we don't want to create that kind of liability, but we also want to just make sure we're getting folks the kind of information they need if we can get it to them. Thoughts about that?
Yep, it's a challenge to figure out a way to communicate, you know, with everybody accurate and valid information. The situations are going to change, you know, quickly and dynamically, and you know, we certainly we don't want people to be solely reliable on the police department to get their information, you know, because frankly we might have a lot going on, and that's something that we're just asking that businesses and owners have a plan in place and pay attention to the media and other platforms, and ultimately make those decisions on their own. You know, we're not going to be in a position where we're going to come and say, hey, something's coming, we need you to close your business. That's ultimately your decision, you know, as the business owner. We might try to, you know, work to get information out on the Twitter or Facebook that, you know, this is going on in this area. You know, please, you know, consult your own plans and take action.
Okay, so that continues to be a need that ESABA, you know, also because we think that that's partly ESABA's role, you know, to help be a communication component, a communicator. Other questions? We've got some new folks on the show here that came for this in particular. Just want to make some opportunity for you all to ask questions or zero in on a part of this that you feel like is an unmet need that, you know, we can work on together maybe. Thoughts about?
I see a question from Karen that says, protect for government entities is understandable. Wondering when what local businesses should start undergoing that same type of asset protection. You know, that again, that goes back to, you know, it's an individual decision that you're going to have to make as a business. You know, I can tell you that, you know, if there's certain products that are sold that are more of a target than others, you know, pharmacies are a target, liquor stores are a target, cell phone distributors and stores are targets, clothing, you know, TJ Maxx, and then shoes are all targets for potential looters and criminal damage to property type events. You know, so we would ask that, you know, you have a plan. So the time to develop a plan is not in the moment crisis. It's the plan, like right now. You'll have plenty of time to, find a contractor, find somebody that can do this for you, and have that person's phone number, and then start the conversation. How long is it going to take for you to mobilize? Especially if it's in a time of great need. Some of those services could be 2-3 days out, and by then it might be too late. So depends upon what you're selling.
That's great. Thanks for seeing Karen's question there, Senior Commander. Chris Shapira had also recommended a service, the 1-800 board up, and had a contact. She was recommending that contact. Chris, I did reach out and connect with him this week, and that's something that we'd love to bring forward. So on that page that I put up, the stpaulprepared.com, we'll have some kind of curated some opportunities for people to connect with some of those resources that they may want to follow up with. And I'd love to include Tommy as one of those. Am I getting his name right? Was it Tommy?
No, Tommy's right.
Tommy, yeah, that's what okay, I thought I remembered. So yeah, we had a fantastic conversation with him, and that, Senior Commander, it's right in the zone of exactly what you're saying. Like, if I need board up support and help, or am considering that, love to have this service come out and give me an estimate of what it would cost and how they would do it. And then what he's offered us is a discount based on being a part of our association or on the east side, and a priority if in case we did need to make that call. So, we want to bring good and helpful referrals to folks if they want them. Thanks for that reference, Chris. You want to say something else about that?
Can I ask one? So one of the things when I was listening to Chief Commander Kurt Hallstrom speak is, St. Paul Fire. I was just wondering, like, when I went to have lunch with Tommy at Brunson's, right? And we're talking to them, and they're a high risk entity, right? They have a lot of alcohol, and it seems, that those seems to be one of the targets. Just our, like, St. Paul, let's say Station 4, who is the station that covers Brunson's, for example, are they working with the owners and saying, okay, if we have an event of a fire or riot, is there like a relationship, say, this is what's going to happen? We have cameras here. This is where you could get in. I mean, are they doing any kind of one-on-one planning with the businesses on the east side, on the St. Paul Fire side?
I can't attest. I can't speak to what the fire department is doing.
Yeah.
And there's so many businesses that, just like I wouldn't be able to refer a board up crew to you. I would say that, consult Google, there's multiple out there. There's so many businesses that it would be difficult for us to say, work with Urusos by example on an individual basis, because if we forgot somebody, that wouldn't look good for us, right? So we're trying to. This is why we partnered up with Paris and try to have these meetings, and we're making ourselves accessible. But we need the owners of the businesses to be proactive in reaching out and joining in these conversations on an individual basis, and taking that ownership. You know what I mean? So I hear what you're saying, and I'll be happy to do this presentation 1,000 more times if that's what it takes to everybody on board and educated as to what it is that we're kind of asking them to do, and then to also get the best information that they possibly can have to protect their businesses and protect their livelihoods and families and other things that would be working there. So I understand the question, and that's what we're trying to do here with these types of meetings.
So Paris, maybe it's off, on the side, we can talk about maybe bringing someone from St. Paul Fire to attend one of these meetings and kind of act as the same way, so that the east side businesses have a fire resource as well as a police force, right?
I love that idea. Yes, that's a great idea. And in addition, one of the things that we will do at a subsequent meeting is bring business owners that have taken some action. That hey, this is the step that we took at my place. This is what I reviewed the checklist that the chief put out. I looked at the resources, and I called Segal, and she came out. We did an assessment. We want business owners to talk to each other, because we know that the absolute most convincing folks in terms of taking action are going to be the peers. Businesses who've taken some action will help another business owner go, well, yeah, I thought about this part of it, but I never thought about that part of it. So I think it's a great idea, Chris. Let's have some opportunity for fire to come out and talk to, and business owners to connect with each other. That's our plan. Go ahead, Senior.
Could they have the same time that I had next week? if I reach out to the fire department right now, could they join your weekly connect meeting next Thursday, 11:45?
11:45. What do you think?
I think it's great. That'd be
Okay,
awesome.
that'd be great.
I was
You
just,
wanna-
I was texting Chief Deputy Baker, and I'm like, who do I get on? So I think Kurt probably has a better idea of who to invite. So
That's great. Yeah. If you'll help make that connection, Senior Commander, and CC me
Yep.
on that, let's make that happen. It sounds like a fantastic resource, and we'll run them for a couple weeks, maybe if they want. If they want.
no, I
Terrific.
think that'd be awesome.
Additional questions, Eric? We've got just accolades in the chat at the moment. I don't see additional questions in the chat. Anyone else want to ask anything or on this topic, off this topic around safety, East Side safety that Senior Commander Hallstrom might address? Oh, we're looking like we may be ready to wrap up. We ready to wrap up, everybody? We've got some folks who are new to the call. I just want to invite them to have a word here at the end, as well as anyone who might be interested in a final word. Okay, I'll wrap us up here. Senior Commander Kurt Hallstrom, thank you so much for being on, and all of you ESABA members and guests. Like I said, this information will be up on our YouTube channel a little later today with the recording, as well as happy to send. Senior Commander, would you also just send me your deck again for these, your PowerPoint deck?
Off the slides? Yep.
I'll include your presentation and a little more information to the folks who left me their email addresses for today. So yeah, if you want a copy of the presentations today, just drop your email address in the chat here as we're wrapping up, and I'll make sure that you get it when we post later today. All right, well, thank you all. Senior Commander, am I right in believing that the next time you're back on the show, you're back, I mean, I would never say that you're back as a civilian, but you're back in the capacity to observe and answer questions, that we're not going to do this presentation next week or going forward, or what's your sense of completing the work?
Well, that's up to you and your members and whatever it is that they want. So if there's a specific topic they would just to address, and you'll be gracious enough to give me the time to do it, I'll be happy to talk about any topics that come up. But yeah, this is the last one we have planned. But if somebody says I missed it and I want to see it and I want to see it live, I don't want to see the recorded version of it, because we are very entertaining. You can just let me know. We'll do it again. But yeah, I'll continue to join and answer questions as they come up, and continue to pray and hope that this is a lot of planning and preparations for something that's gonna come and go without negatively impacting our community. So I look forward to the day when it's in the rearview mirror. I'm not going by. So
very
good. I appreciate everybody taking the time to join us today, and I'll turn my email to Chief Simpson right now in the fire department. So I'm sure that they'll get somebody on board. If there's specific questions you think that people want, I think it was Chris that specifically asked the question. If you have specific questions, email me and/or Paris, and we'll make sure that Chief Simpson has them for whoever is going to be on the meeting with us next week.
Awesome. He'd be awesome. He'd be great.
That's great. Thank you so much, everyone. Your Commander will join you in that hope, and that we'll keep on rolling down toward business as usual in this most extraordinary time. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.